He's here. There you go. Okay.
Thank you. First item, second item on the agenda is to approval of executive session minutes for June 6, 2011.
Motion.
Motion made by Mr. Iavino.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ferrio. Any questions on those? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes. Regular session minutes of June 6, 2011. Motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Iavino, seconded by Mr. Welder. Any questions on those minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes. Next item is public comment. If anyone would like to come up to the podium for public comment, state their name and address. Not seeing anyone, that item is closed. Fourth item on the agenda is superintendent reports. Budget.
Thank you very much. As everyone knows, we continue to await the vote of the legislature and the city council in regards to our budget, as well as our own final meeting, which the public forum, which will take place on Wednesday, June 29th at 6 p.m. In this chamber, at which point the public is invited to come and have a voice before our budget is considered in a vote that evening. So there's really no more movement to be made on the budget this evening. The second item has to do with the technology plan, which I submitted in my memorandum to you last week. Just want to give you a little bit of background on that. A committee has been convened for the last few months, putting together this proposal for a technology plan for 2011 to 2014. Our current plan expires in August. We talked to DESE. We can pass the plan in September, or we could pass it at this point in time. They're quite fine with our moving forward in either way. The key to the plan is to bring the K-8 schools up to a comparable condition technologically as is the high school, or as the high school will be at the end of the renovations. The cornerstone of that is to make the entire K-8 schools wireless with up-to-date equipment, so that they again have the same capacity as the high school. As you read the plan, you also note that we wrote the plan with it being an initiative that embraces more than just the schools, that it embraces the entire city, with the hopes that the city at the same time, during the same amount of time, will ensure that all households in the city have wireless access. This is absolutely essential, because even though our kids may go home and their house may in fact have a computer, as most of them do, it is not the case that that same majority of students have access to the internet, where their folks are paying the monthly fees to access the internet. So for our kids to be able to be anywhere on a par with their more technology able and savvy peers in other districts, it's really imperative that they get that kind of wireless access. So the plan is in the committee's hands. We've talked a little bit about it. I know that we're going to defer until the September meeting before it is voted upon. We hand that over to Dr. DeRusi. I think it's a very, very exciting plan, and I'm excited about the discussions that will begin under his leadership, and hope that all of city government can be engaged in that conversation, so that you're voting not just on a plan for the schools, but also for a plan for the rest of the city. Now that's it in terms of my report. I just want to give one more note, because a couple of folks asked about the status of ELT. As of right now, as you know, we have two schools that are expanded learning time schools, Salem Wood and Ferryway. We do not know whether they will both move forward as ELT schools on two different levels. First of all, they have submitted proposals that have to be approved. But also the second piece of it is that all of the ELT schools in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which were our level 3 schools, of which Salemwood is one, have been under a great deal of scrutiny this year in terms of making decisions as to whether or not they're going to move forward as expanded learning time schools. We have not yet been informed of that. But I want to give you a little bit more background tonight, and I think it's important background. I'm glad that Dr. DeRusi is with us this evening, because I will share it with him tonight, but also in more detail over the course of the next couple of weeks. One thing I am concerned about is the metric, if you will, that's being considered by the Commonwealth, by DESE, up to this point in time has been MCAS scores and MCAS scores alone, and growth in MCAS scores. And that is problematic at Salemwood, and I believe it is not reasonable. And I want to tell you why. Since 2007, over the course of the last 4 years, Salemwood is a very, very different school from the school it was as recently as 2 years ago. Here's some of the data that I think is most important to know about. Between 2007 and 2011, the students whose first language is not English, the percentage of those students moved from 31.7% to 50.2%. In the rest of the district, it's only 42.8%, so it's 8 points higher than the rest of the district. In terms of limited English proficient students, it's moved from 7.8% to 26.1%, whereas in the rest of the district it's 14.3%. In terms of 40% of all of our limited English proficient students in grades K through 8 are at Salemwood School. 40% are there, and 56% of those students are in their first year in the country. So Salemwood really has disproportionate challenges, if you will, particularly in terms of MCAS scores. 2 years ago we put the SEI program in Salemwood, 225 students moved into the building who are first-year students in the country. At the same time, in providing space for those students, 225 by attrition, 225 students who are more MCAS ready were lost to the school. So that has a significant impact on their ability to increase MCAS scores. At the same time that's going on. Some more data in terms of low income. From 2007, the percentage of students has moved up from 62.8% to 72.9%, whereas the rest of the district is 58.7%. Again, another reason why Salemwood is dealing with particular challenges. And another last piece of data is that Salemwood is home to 51% of all of the homeless children in our K-8 schools. So that's just some of the data that I have presented to the Commissioner. He and I had an extensive conversation over the course of the last couple of weeks. As a matter of fact, a number of conversations about this. I also made him very well aware of the fact that these moves to Salemwood are part of a district-wide improvement strategy, and that we really do treat the district as, in many ways, like a 6,500 student school with 7 campuses. And that the move of the SEI to the Salemwood was a strategic move to bring those teachers together. Frankly, the program and those teachers were on the periphery in the schools that they were in prior to this. They were not of such a concentration that their scores or their performance would have a significant impact on those schools. And frankly, we were providing not very good services to the SEI kids. We made it very, very clear to the Commissioner that we thought it was a great idea when we did it. We continue to think that it's a great idea to move the SEI program into Salemwood, but they are facing some unusual conditions in terms of being measured exclusively through MCAS scores. And at the same time, this district strategy, I want to remind everybody, in terms of the DART scores, remember the scores that are our student growth scores? This district strategy has been successful. We are number one in the Commonwealth among all demographically similar districts in terms of our growth on the MCAS in English language arts and in mathematics. And I researched the other districts in the Commonwealth that have ELT schools. When you look at our DART scores compared to all of those districts, we are again number one among all of those districts in terms of student growth in both English language arts and mathematics. So basically it made this case to the commissioner. It was very favorably received. He told me that his words, the data was absolutely compelling, and that though he did not have the authority to act single-handedly in terms of making a decision, nor are they ready to, they're in deliberations about it. He said there was absolutely nothing more that we could do to make a compelling case. So why am I telling you all of this? You know, I'm telling you this because we are continuing to get better. Our preliminary English language arts data shows that our scores are continuing to grow. This year's preliminary ELA data. But if the commissioner and the DESE does propose that Salem would not continue to get funding solely because of MCAS scores, I'm here to call on all of you, to call on Dr. DeRusi, to take this same charge, to take this same compelling story, and to move forward with it. I am hopeful that that's not going to happen. I mean, they really have been very, very good conversations with the commissioner. But our kids at Salemwood, as the data shows, are our most needy kids. If there is a school in the District of Malden that most needs to have an ELT program, it is the Salemwood. So I just, again, I appreciate taking the time to listen through this. I know it wasn't immediately on the agenda, but because a number of people had asked, I wanted to make sure everybody had all the background on this. And that's it for my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Before we ask questions, there is an item under Superintendent Smith's on school choice. Mr. Smith?
Right. This is, as everybody knows, this is the annual vote that the committee is required to make in terms of determining whether or not the district would move to school choice. Is my recommendation that we do not do so. We are filled to the gills in all of our schools and only getting larger. So I recommend that we do not vote for school choice.
Thank you. Before we take a vote on school choice, are there any questions to the superintendent regarding the budget update, technology plan, or the update on ELT? Ms. Crow?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that for the ELT, to sort of the sit tight, I guess, until we make a decision, is there anything we should be doing just to have things ready in the pipeline, or phone calls, or whatever?
Very good question. I don't think, I think that in terms of, if you mean phone calls to the commissioner or something of that sort, I leave that to the discretion of the committee. I think that we're well placed in terms of having made our particular case. In terms of Plan B, were that to happen, the principals have already put together, schedules, all of them have, in the eventuality that either of the schools might lose ELT for next year. So we're well prepared for this, should it happen,
right.
and regret that if it were to happen, not only for us but for anybody in the Commonwealth, that the decision gets made so late.
Right. And I know that you've had conversations with the commissioner, but is this written up?
It's
sent
also,
him in a report
right,
kind of thing?
I sent a memo to him to kick off the conversations.
Right. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Would it be possible to get a copy?
Sure, I can get a copy to all of you of that memo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crow. And just to follow up, could you also put that possibly on the website, or that copy of a letter, so that parents and stuff are, you prefer, okay. But they could call the central office.
Anybody can call us and talk about it.
Thank you. Any questions to my right? My left, Mr. Weldy.
I guess my question in terms of preparedness goes along with Ms. Crow's, but different constituency. I realize we would prefer not to, but for those of us who are getting lots of questions from parents, specifically because I know that Steve and I have, the Salem Woods in our district, we hear a lot from parents and teachers in that district. Have you done that sort of notification with, let's say, staff in the building that you're reaching out to them? And I'm thinking in terms of preparedness for families in case they wanted to maybe move their child in and out of a school, in terms of teachers, I don't know what, the teachers' pool is long before we'll know whether or not ELT continues. Will they have opportunities to transfer? I'm just thinking preparedness for the other constituencies in our district. It would be nice to...
I appreciate that. The tricky thing about this is that when all of the level 3 schools, ELT schools, were notified of this in the fall, our status is really no different than it was then. We are not any closer to a decision than we were a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago. So it's on some level, I'm sharing this information just because I want folks to, be prepared, if you will, but to get the facts behind it. At the same time, I am not here saying that today I feel like we are more likely to not get ELT than I felt back in September and October when we got the first notice that all of the level 3 schools in the Commonwealth were going under this additional level of review this year. So I'm a little bit reluctant, to say anything more than that, because I genuinely have no new information that says we are more likely than we were in October. At the same time, the principals of the schools and I have talked a great deal about just making sure that there are particularly backup schedules and everything is in hand to make sure that it's a seamless transition should ELT be lost.
Thank you, Superintendent Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any questions regarding the ELT? Just let the community know that are watching, or the reporters that are here, and I'm sure Ms. Gonzalez, the MEA, has been speaking to her membership about ELT and the possibilities of it. But do we have a decision date that DESE may contact us?
Unfortunately, we don't have a hard date. When I last talked to the commissioner on Friday, he said he anticipates that the decision will be made as of last Friday over the course of the next 2 weeks. So, June 30th is what I'm thinking of. As an outside date. Thank
you, Mr. Smith. On the superintendent's report for school choice, the recommendation by the superintendent has been for many years now is not to participate in school choice. Are there any discussions or motions that someone would like to put forward?
Make a motion that we accept the
That's fine.
Ms. Crowe?
Accept the superintendent's recommendation and not.
I second that.
Ms. Crowe has a motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and not to become a choice school for academic years 2011 to 12. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Iavino. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda are deliberations, subcommittee updates. Does anyone like to give an update? I'll start on my left, Mr. Winslow.
Yeah, I just wanted to report that the policy subcommittee met this afternoon to talk about the policy on managing the care of students suspected of athletic concussions. We had a good discussion, and the committee voted to recommend that the policy that was handed out at last meeting be adopted by the committee as a whole, with just one change where we want the guidelines that the athletic director develops be developed in consultation with the school physician and the athletic director. So I can hand that around if people have questions, but basically the version that was handed out at our last school committee meeting is the one that was recommended with a minor edit. So I'd have the discussion and make a recommendation that we go ahead and vote on that.
Any questions to Mr. Winslow or members of the policy subcommittee regarding concussions? Not seeing any, all right.
A motion to accept the policy on concussions.
A motion was made by Mr. Winslow to accept the policy on concussions as recommended unanimously by the subcommittee. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Weldy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No, it passes, and thanks to Mr. Keefe and Superintendent Smith for their input on this very important matter. Any other subcommittee updates? Mr. Iavino?
I've been in touch with Mr. Melanson regarding the issue at the Salem Wood School, specifically the disinfecting and the shampooing of the rug in the school library. He indicated to me that he would be in direct contact with Suzanne Tynemouth, the school librarian, with regard to an approximate date and time, and that either he or she would contact the Director of Technology, Mr. Nguyen, about moving and securing the computers that are in there so as to facilitate the cleaning of the carpeting. I also inquired about the roof leak at the Linden School. The contractor who was supposed to have given him a proposal by now has failed to do so. He has put that out to additional contractors and is expecting a bid within the next 30 days. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Iavino?
Question.
Mr. Duffy?
In your opinion, Mr. Iavino, are our schools falling down? Should I keep my children from going to our schools? I'm concerned. Could you please update me on this?
You may ease your concern, Mr. Duffy. Their schools are not falling down. They're in very good shape.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Weldy, did you want to speak? No. Thank you, Mr. Iavino, and thank you for the update. We look forward to the report from you and Mr. Melanson, and thank Mr. Melanson for his work and hopefully fix those problems in our schools for the children and the staff. Any other subcommittee questions, Mr. Winslow? Okay. Any subcommittee on the right? No. Mr. Winslow?
Yeah, I did, on Friday, I went to the wellness committee that Karen Reynolds heads up, and Cheryl McGuire was there talking about the food service program. One thing she did mention was the challenge related to just balancing the food budget going forward. The good news is at the federal level, we're going to get a greater reimbursement than we have in the past, so the federal government is putting more into the school lunch program, but that's going to obligate us to, for kids who are not free or reduced, we will be obligated to raise especially at the K through 8 level, the rate that we're charging in the future to sync up better with that future rate. So that's something I'd asked the superintendent to contact Ms. McGuire, and if the proposal is to do an increase for next school year, that we should have that for the next school committee meeting so that we can give fair consideration and get notice out to the public that we would be considering a hike in school lunches for next year. So I'd ask that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Winslow. Just from the chair, I'd ask Superintendent Smith to invite Ms. McGuire next week to speak, give us an update on how the food program has gone and what's going on for the summer, of course, and address Mr. Winslow's concern. Is that okay with the rest of the committee? Any questions from Mr. Winslow? Any other subcommittee updates? Just on the budget, there is the public forum next Wednesday, the 29th, starting at 6 o'clock here at the council chambers. We will also have a regular school committee meeting following that right at 7 o'clock with executive session and a few votes to end the academic year. On the consent agenda, we do need to take a vote to appoint MASC, which is the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, a delegate to the conference, the convention, which they switched the date of the delegation to November 11th, I believe. Last year, we sent Mr. Weldy. Is there a motion to send someone or continue to send Mr. Weldy to the delegation?
He's done a fine job, an incredibly good job.
Since there have been no other takers, Mr. Duffy has made a motion to send Mr. Weldy to represent us with the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, seconded by Mr. Iavino. All those in favor?
Aye.
Do you accept, Mr. Weldy? Good, because it's unanimous. Thank you.
I'm excited.
We do have to take a vote to go, to reaffirm a vote made in executive session, approving the contract for Dr. DeRuzzi, our next superintendent of schools, effective July 1st, 2011. Do I have a motion to accept the contract? Motion by Mr. Weldy, seconded by Mr. Iavino. Would you take the roll, please?
Mrs. Crowe?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Foil? Yes. Mr. Iavino?
Yes.
Mr. Altrino?
Yes.
Mr. Weldy?
Yes.
Mr. Winslow?
Yes, the motion passes for the contract. And in audience today is Dr. David DeRossi, next superintendent, so welcome to the district, and we look forward to working with you. And would you like to say a few words, Dr. DeRossi, please?
Steve, you want to turn on the
I would just like to take this opportunity to thank the school committee. I felt through the whole process that you treated me with the utmost respect from the first interview to the last, right through the negotiations. As I said in my interviews, Malden was a school district that I looked to, that I wanted to be part of, and to lead this district truly is an opportunity of a lifetime. So I will do my best to follow in the outstanding leadership of Sid Smith and those before him. And I will be here July 1st. Actually, I will meet with Sid later. We have schedules and times to meet, but you will see me in the district starting as soon as our last day of school in Revere, which is the 22nd. I've already worked out half days with them on some of my vacation time, so I am looking forward to get started. And I want to thank you for your vote of confidence.
Thank you again, Dr. DeRuzzi. And the docket is clear. I'd like to take personal privilege.